Join us on a captivating journey as we explore the charm, history, and vibrant culture of Wilkes County. Discover the hidden gems, inspiring stories, and remarkable people that make Wilkes a place worth knowing and celebrating. Join us now and experience the unique essence of life in Wilkes.
Heather Murphy, welcome to Life in Wilkes.
Thank you so much, Carl. I'm delighted to be here this morning.
Well, I felt that it was really important for us to sit down. You and I talked a couple of times out and about. I think the last time it was at a gathering, I think, of county commissioners, and it was talking about travel and tourism, I think, and you were there. I think that was it. And all sorts of ideas were floating around. I can't remember anything there that was what you would imagine to be health-related, other than the fact that the entirety of the notion of tourism and the idea of us traveling and going to a place to relax, I got to think that's healthy, right? Okay, we'll talk about that later. All right, tell us about the Health Foundation and what it does.
So I'm the executive director of the Health Foundation. Our organization was founded in 1991. I've been with the organization since 1995.
Wow.
So I've really seen it grow from a germ of an idea to an incredibly complex organization working on all of the ways that we can impact the health, the well-being, and the quality of life for people in Wilkes County, North Carolina.
That's big. That's big. That's big.
It is big. And when we started, I was hired because West Park was a declining shopping center. It was a community eyesore. Real estate agents said that they would drive people by the hospital and then they would turn around and drive all the way around town to avoid going by it because people would say, "What's down in that hole?"
Wow.
And West Park is a quarter of a mile from our hospital. It is in bottomland. It's in land that was once occupied by the Cherokee.
Yes.
And, it's just a beautiful complex, but it was a falling apart complex. The mall had moved organizations out. And our founder, Alvin A. Sturdivant Jr., saw it as its highest use being a medical park.
Right.
And so when I was hired, it was to raise enough money philanthropically. The Health Foundation is a nonprofit 501c organization, to raise enough money from donations so that we could purchase it from its overseas owners and turn it into a vibrant local community asset.
So that's why it is what it is now.
That is why it is what it is now.
Wow.
The generosity of this community helped us purchase the center. And then we started actually leveraging debt. I mean, we were a very progressive organization. If you think about it, we had a bold vision and we went for it. And that's because we had a really strong board of directors who believed in the vision and could see it. And so when you go to West Park today, what you see are medical offices that provide care on any number of levels for people who need services. Some of those services probably wouldn't be in our rural Appalachian community today if it were not for the attractiveness of being able to come into a space and begin practicing medicine.
Right, and have it feel like that's where they're supposed to be.
It's a synergy. Yes, this is where you're supposed to be. And so early on, the Health Foundation, as it began to develop West Park into what it is today, we also did a lot of fundraising for important community projects that solved problems, but they were very project-oriented. So if I go back in time, the first project was to bring kidney dialysis services to Wilkes County.
So before before your project, the Health Foundation's project, there was nowhere in Wilkes County for kidney dialysis?
That's right. And the Health Foundation, and this is actually before my time, the Health Foundation raised money to build out an office for a nephrologist. We worked in concert with our hospital to try to find that neurologist. The nephrologist. Right. Misspoke. And 3 days after I started at the Health Foundation, I started in December, there was a huge snowstorm. And a few days later, EMS showed up at my door and said, Mrs. Murphy, we want to thank the Health Foundation for bringing nephrology and dialysis services here. You saved some lives. And I said, tell me about that. And he said, well, I'm with EMS, and we had to transport people to kidney dialysis out of town to Winston or to Hickory or other locations. And we had no way to do that during this snowstorm. If this dialysis center had not been opened when it was, we would have had people dying from the lack of treatment of dialysis.
That has to be something that in quiet moments you think about.
It's really, it's just really cool.
Yeah,
and I'm going to tell you something. We're going to get on to some of this more recent stuff, but I think Wilkes County is the coolest place people have never heard of. And I'm pretty sure maybe the Health Foundation is the coolest nonprofit that people haven't heard of.
I think so.
So I'm really glad that you're having me here today.
There's so many things that you're saying that sounds good. I can't wait to hear the rest of it. And I know everybody listening is excited about this as well. Maybe not knowing why, but that's soon going to come through. But the idea of taking a facility, a park, a mall, an abandoned place, basically is what it was.
There were tumbleweeds and stray dogs.
Yes. Oh, I hope you've got pictures of that.
I do, actually.
Oh, that's great. So here's my question, or my curiosity. Do we have other examples of this being, an actual foundation being formed, and the foundation, its first major project is to purchase basically, I guess it would be considered, I don't know if you call it failed because it just ran its time, but it was failed, right? A failed big retail park. And then by the very reason for it being purchased was for health benefits of an entire community. That's incredible.
I don't know if other folks have done this. They should.
Yeah,
there are just so many abandoned properties and buildings that could be repurposed into a higher use.
Sure,
we thought of it as a giant recycling project.
Well, it would take that type of foresight, because you're not buying a building. You're buying an entire shopping center. Yes. And thinking, okay, we can take this property and we can turn it into a mega health service center.
And so if you think about how we marketed it back then to our donors, it was about attracting physicians to our rural community.
Okay.
And that is still an issue today. And so when we start talking about tourism and outdoor economy, let's not remember that people can live wherever they want to.
Sure.
We want them to want to live here. And our natural resources are our greatest asset. We're in God's country.
Right.
And so West Park was a way to attract physicians and increase access to care for services that we didn't have here. And so, talking about having kidney dialysis, bringing in orthopedics.
So that was your pitch to the donors.
To our donors, it was about physician recruitment.
Right.
It was also about what was then an idea of a wellness center. That health does not begin when you go to the doctor. Health begins
Right.
with the everyday things you do, with where you live, work, play, pray, and learn, and those influences. And so the original Wellness Center was all about not only expanding access to care for physical therapy and that sort of thing, but it was what is now an offshoot of the YMCA, but it was a place where people could go and exercise and, promote their health and wellness.
So it's a lifestyle mega center, if you will, dealing with those tough moments where we have to deal with tough things. I've had
Sure.
MRIs done there.
Oh,
I had
absolutely.
an accident. I had rehab done there.
Mm-hmm. We have a wound care center there.
Yes, and see what else? Oh, the sleep doctor. The sleep
Yeah,
doctor.
there you
the
go.
CPAP machine. There he is. People say, "Where'd you get the sleep doctor?" Is that what he is? Yeah.
25 years ago, we didn't have those services here.
And they're here.
And so this partnership with our hospital, this partnership with other healthcare providers created the synergy. And it's like anything. The more you do, the more people want to be a part of it. So that's West Park.
So let me ask you this question. When you look at the area, you talked about how beautiful our natural resources are. Absolutely true. But when it comes to the economic development activities of attracting other businesses, bringing people here to live, bringing them by the area, attracting people to make this their retirement home, make this their young family home. Having that infrastructure in place to kind of take care of you on all these levels in this beautiful setting, that's got to be as important as the restaurants, as important as the trails, which they're all there. So it's the whole package. But without this component, would we attract the type of businesses we want to come to Wilkes? Would we attract them without having this very, what we now can say, fundamental baseline?
I doubt it. I mean, if I'm retiring, I want to make sure I have good health care facilities. I just had a birthday. I am one of 11,200 people per day who are turning 65 this year.
Happy birthday.
11,200 people per day. And if you are 65 years old and you are thinking about where you want to spend the rest of your life, you want a strong infrastructure. You want a community college where you can continue to learn. You want a library where you can check out a book. But you want health care and you want access to all of the amenities, because as you age, you become more and more concerned about, having access to health care. So it is fundamental, but it isn't the only part of it. And so as we progress through this timeline, where you're going to see us go is the outdoor economy and how that contributes to a healthier community by giving people access to places to perform healthful activities.
Right.
Walking is one of the best exercises anyone can do.
And your park is right there.
And our park is there. It's part of a greenway structure. The Ruby Purdue Blackburn Adult Daycare Center, which is a project we raised money to help start, is at the back of West Park, and you can get on the greenway right there. You can go just about 1/8 of a mile. We have an outdoor exercise park, so people don't have to go inside and sign up for a program to do some basic leg lifts and arm, and that sort of thing.
What is the Ruby Purdue Center?
So the Ruby Purdue Blackburn Center is a project that the Health Foundation took on to provide adult day health care for people who are not safe in their homes during the day without supervision, but who are well enough and who have family who are engaged enough that they don't need nursing home care.
Right.
So it's part of that continuum of care. It typically, using an adult daycare center typically delays placement into a nursing home by as much as 2 years. And often that's a lifetime for the people who are experiencing that. So they get to live at home with their loved ones, but think about generationally. If I'm 60 years old and I have a 85-year-old mother, I'm not retired yet. I'm still working, but mama keeps turning on the stove, putting the biscuits in and forgetting to take them out. Right. You know, it's not safe. And so the Ruby Purdue Blackburn Adult Daycare Center provides a safe environment. It's got a beautiful garden, lots of activities. People come in and play music, and they do crafts and arts, and but it's like a home away from home for people. It has beds. If someone wants to just go take a nap, they can take a nap. It's
but they're not
cool.
staying all night.
No, it's a daycare center.
So it just like drop the kids off. Here's the other end.
But
of
the
life.
component that is most important for this age group, and it's an adult center, so it's 18 and up. You know, you might have a disabled adult who is, you know, not elderly, but they can't function at home alone. But it is a health center. There is a nurse on duty. So medications can be managed, and, you know, blood pressure and all of that sort of thing. It's a comprehensive place for people to go.
So I see the big picture of that. Have you heard of some life-changing experience? In other words, some stories. How do we think about this in our everyday life? Because I'm assuming this is going to be a new idea for a lot of people.
Well, perhaps, and there are tons of stories about families who were able to keep their loved ones at home, and that's really what people want. You know, they want to be. No one wants to not be able to care for their loved ones, right? But sometimes, now think about the 40-year-old who has small children and an aging parent, and how do you juggle all that and get to work? You know, it really solves a problem. But sometimes it solves a problem that is very short term. My husband's an avid bicyclist, and one day he left the house. He got T-boned by a big dog, and he broke his acetabulum, which is not your hip bone, but that mitt-like part of your body. He was wheelchair bound for 12 weeks.
Wow.
And his recovery was much longer. Well, you know, he wanted nothing more than a good shower or a good bath. The Ruby Purdue Blackburn Adult Daycare Center had all that. Our home was down a flight of stairs. We weren't equipped.
Right.
And so I took him to the adult daycare center, and he got to go,
right.
I mean, and maybe that's not life-changing, but it was certainly life-comforting at the time. You know, it made a huge difference. It helped me. It helped him.
Yeah, I love that.
And so it's a really cool place. But that was a project that our health department had identified as a need in our community. North Carolina wanted to see an adult daycare center in all 100 counties, and they had allotted some money to do the project. And then a hurricane hit the coast, and all the money allotted for it went to the coast. But now we were committed,
right?
You know, and so we raised little over, close to $250,000 to put it all together and keep it operational and get it started. And they have an incredible independent board of directors who do a really wonderful job keeping the program going. It's great for veterans. Veterans have really taken advantage of adult daycare. And so shout out to all the people who serve our country and who need this kind of facility.
Because Wilkes County has a lot of veterans.
We do.
Yeah.
Very proud of our service community.
So if you had done nothing but have the rehab facility and this wonderful daycare product, that would be okay. You've delivered an enormous amount to the community.
Well, let's talk about let's talk about the public health dental clinic.
Yes, that's where I wanted to go next. Let's talk about that.
So the community does a health needs assessment every 3 years, and it was clear that children were entering kindergarten with as many as 15 cavities in their 15 teeth mouth.
Right.
Okay, it was real crisis. North Carolina itself was being sued for not providing dental care to children who were on Medicaid. And mothers would say to me, oh, dentists are taking new patients, just not if you're on Medicaid. Right. And the reason for that was that dentists were losing 45 cents on the dollar for every Medicaid patient they served. So we worked with public health officials and interested citizens, and we raised money for the public health dental clinic to get off the ground. And it was for children only. There was a disagreement in our boardroom about whether we needed a mobile clinic that would travel to the schools or a fixed site where people could bring their children. And we deferred to the dental experts who said, we'll never get a dentist here to go out on a truck. We need a fixed site.
Right.
So we had a big party and had little children singing All I Want for Christmas Is My Two Front Teeth. And, we raised enough money to build out the clinic for the children at West Park. But one of our donors, who has always wished to remain anonymous, said, I can't get over this idea that there are people who work at places where they can't leave to take their children to the dentist. I really want to see this mobile unit come into play.
In addition to
the fixed site.
Right.
And single-handedly funded the first public health dental bus. We worked with the school system. They put in all of the water and the electricity so that the bus could come and hook up and not have to use loud generators. And they started treating children at the elementary schools throughout the county.
How long has that been happening?
25 years, maybe. It's been a while. It's a great program.
I can't imagine that hasn't been incredibly not only successful, but from a physical standpoint, but the emotional standpoint of having your teeth not hurting you or falling out as a kid. That's a big deal.
I had a dad. We taped him, but we never used the tape because it just felt too intrusive. But I had a dad tell me that he did not want his child to grow up like him. He couldn't look you in the eye and smile because he didn't have teeth. He couldn't find work because he didn't have teeth. He had had a heart attack at an early age, and they related it back to his untreated dental decay. And he was missing fingers from an accident at a sawmill. He said, I had a toothache, and I took more of the medicine than I was supposed to, and I ended up losing my fingers over it. Wow. And he was just in tears that he wanted a better life for his son. It was incredibly powerful. And so this public health dental program started seeing children, and then the adults started saying, how can I come? And so we then built another clinic for adults. And,
fantastic.
It's a sliding fee scale. It accepts Medicaid. It accepts regular patients. When I say regular, people who can afford to pay, who have dental insurance. I don't mean to separate people. And a smile is part of your soul. It's part of who you are. I had a mom say to me, I got turned down for a job at Walmart because I couldn't smile. So think about that. Think about that. And there are, diabetes and lung disease and heart disease have all been linked to untreated dental care.
Right.
And untreated dental care was one of the biggest ways that we found young children, like 14, 15-year-olds and adults finding themselves addicted to opioids.
So it was a gateway.
One of the, a lot has changed in terms, and part of the work the Health Foundation does is to bring people together so we can look at the policies and the practices that are in place that are impacting health. Vision 2020 had an early emphasis on substance use disorders, and they found that people were going to our hospital. They were being given 30 days worth of opioids for a toothache because those people couldn't necessarily find dental care because we didn't have an adult dental clinic. And then they were becoming addicted to prescription opioids.
Wow.
That's why we've had a huge opioid settlement, is because the prescriptions were being given under the assumption that these were non-addictive.
Right.
And yet they were.
It certainly has impacted countless lives. And I do think it's probably countless. I think we can certainly count how many show up to get help and how many, we know about, but I contend that number is so much larger. Researchers I've talked to.
It is a problem that not only impacts the people who have a substance use disorder, but it affects their family, their places of work. It's just such a widespread problem.
Wow.
But to kind of circle back, about what is the Health Foundation, what do they do? We are an incubator, and we help start these programs, and we have helped fund these programs, but we don't run them. We institutionalize them with their own boards of directors and their own way of doing things. I have a staff of 4 people. Right. We couldn't possibly do all of this without tremendous community partnerships, tremendous philanthropy coming in. But there was a turning point. The National Leadership Academy for Public Health issued a call to teach community leaders how to work collaboratively to solve wicked healthcare problems. And childhood obesity is a wicked childhood problem. The opioid crisis is a wicked problem. There are just so many things contributing to that beyond just whether you get up in the morning and decide what you eat and that sort of thing. And so I led a team that included our school system and our health department, and we went through a 1-year process of learning about what is formally known as collective impact. And collective impact is basically bringing the right partners together in a room and figuring out what are the things that are happening in our community that if we just aligned to a common purpose, if we worked on this together, could we accomplish more than if we're all working alone?
And it sounds like the answer is yes.
Oh, yes.
I love that. Heather, wow, this is part 1. Okay, this is part 1 of our visit.
That just brings us to where we really get rolling.
No, oh my goodness. So it's like, okay, the stage is set. I can't wait to hear the rest of the story. And I already have a sense that when we get to that point in part 2, and we say, now we know the rest of the story, it just seems like this story will never end. This need will never end. The journey will never end, because taking care of ourselves, it's not a single project, is it?
It's not. And Carl, you used the word journey, and I think that's a perfect metaphor, because we are on a path to health. We are on a path to wellness. We're on a path to economic growth in our community. And sometimes that path is not straight.
Right, of course.
And it is rocky, and it is bumpy or whatever else. But boy, it's a beautiful journey to be on.
Oh, just like climbing the trails at Stone Mountain Park, right?
There you go.
It's not a straight path. It'd be too steep for most people to get up anyway, including myself. Heather, thank you so much for sharing from the Health Foundation. We're going to do more because this is really important.
Thank you so much for having me, and well wishes to your audience. Appreciate you.
Thank you for spending time with us on Life in Wilkes. We value you as a viewer and appreciate when you share the show with your friends and family. Be sure to bookmark our channel and join us again on the next episode of Life in Wilkes.